time that no longer ends in the Soviet experience, however important that may be. The flood of new publications, in this case mainly from historians in Russia, includes virtually every period and aspect of Russian history before 1917. There are now not just biographies of czars and empresses, but also of major and minor political figures and fairly ordinary people. Local history has come into being, providing the kind of concrete knowledge of the variety of the country's history that has been routine in other countries for a long time. Russia in its history and in its present is a mix of many different elements. Until the 15th century, the people called themselves and their land Rus, not Russia, the alternative spelling being Rossiya, Rossiia, and it included many territories not now within Russian boundaries. From its inception, it contained people who were not Russian or even Slavic, but whom Russians understood as integral parts of their society. By 1917, the czars and millions of Russian settlers in the steppe and Siberia had acquired a territory far beyond the original medieval boundaries, and the Soviet state conserved most of that area. Consequently, its history has to extend beyond the boundaries of today's Russian Federation and incorporate the various incarnations of Russia as well as its diversity. A society economically backward until the 20th century, Russia shared many traits with nearly all pre-industrial societies: primitive agriculture, small and few cities, mass illiteracy. Russia's historical fate was to become the largest contiguous political unit in the world and eventually expand over the whole of Northern Asia. It was a realm equally distant from Western Europe and from the Mediterranean world. It covered huge areas, but was extremely thinly populated until the end of the 17th century. For the first 700 years, its peripheral status was strengthened by its adherence to Europe's minority Christian faith, Orthodoxy, rather than any of the Western European churches. Then, with Peter the Great, Russia entered European culture within a single generation and participated in all phases of European cultural life onwards, starting with and including the Enlightenment. Cultural evolution was easier and faster than social and political change, creating a society with a modern culture and an archaic social and political structure. The rapid industrialization of Russia after 1860 in turn created tensions that led to the spread of Western ideas that were not necessarily the dominant ones in the West. Thus, for most of the 20th century, Marxism, an ideology born in the Rhineland out of the philosophy of G.W.F. Hegel, combined with British economics and French utopian socialism, reordered Russian society while remaining marginal in the lands of its birth. In the West itself, Russia was simply remote. For the English poet John Milton, it was the most northern region of Europe reputed civil. Milton's view reflected the way Europeans perceived Russia from the Renaissance onward, as part of Europe and as northern rather than eastern. It is only in the 19th century that Russia became eastern to Europeans, and to many Russians as well. In 19th century Western Europe, eastern was not a compliment. It implied that Russia, like the lands the West was then colonizing, was barbaric, despotic, and dirty, and the people probably were inferior in some way. Europeans did not learn Russian, and they did not study the country, and neither did Americans until the beginning of the Cold War. Even when Tolstoy and Tchaikovsky had become part of the Western pantheon, the country as a whole was still a mystery, as Winston Churchill insisted. The uniqueness of the Soviet order only increased that element of mystery. In contrast, when the French Revolution occurred, it took place in the center of Western Europe, among a people whose language had become the principal language of international communication. The Russian Revolution took place in a far country, and few outside Russia knew the language or had any understanding of the country and its history.